So today I really wanted to look at Void. This is a carry hero that's a little bit different. Doesn't have the farming capabilities of a Terror Blade, but it has some of the best fighting capabilities in the game and allows you to play aggro, very aggro, and that's what I want to talk about. We're going to be looking at the skill build that is going to allow you to snowball as Void and play the hero properly, because honestly, you're probably doing it wrong.
It's time to take control of your games by mastering the carry role. At gameleap.com, we have hundreds of pro guides covering position 1 heroes, as well as an entire course dedicated completely to the carry role. Stop losing in the late game, period. Hit the discount link in the description below to steal the secrets of pros and unlock your hidden potential, especially as a carry player.
So what we're going to do first is look at the laning stage and talk about a little bit of the benefits for Void. I don't want to break down the whole hero, I don't need to go in the in-depth guide here. But for Faceless Void, it's very important to consider that Time Walk is the spell that allows you to trade in lane, right? This is the first thing I want to say, because if you were looking at Bash as your trading spell, you were looking at the hero wrong. Now, Bashes are great for trading, and the combination of Time Walk and Bash are what allow you to become a top-tier trading hero, but understand that the main premise of this video is learning how to maximize Time Walk, literally max it in terms of the skill point, and maximize its efficiency in lane and in the mid game. So, what I'm going to be recommending is you strictly max Time Walk. That is it. You do not max Bash. If you look at the scaling of Bash, it goes from 12 to 16 to 20 to 24, meaning it only goes up 4% and 5 extra damage per level. Very underwhelming compared to a 6-second decrease in Time Walk, which is massive because this is the spell that allows you to trade. Now you see here, even against an Ogre Magi, Faceless Void is one of the best heroes in Dota at dealing with this aggression. Now, he doesn't necessarily win this lane. I'm not going to say he does. It doesn't go too well, but due to the fact that you're a 64 damage hero with 304 movement speed and 4 armor, you can deal with aggression, and that's the benefit of this hero. I think Faceless Void is one of the better heroes to draft early. If you have to pick a carry early, I think there's a few in particular that usually do pretty well, because a hero like, PA or Terror Blade can really get crushed by magical damage lanes or, any sort of dual stun. But a hero like Faceless Void or Juggernaut or Troll Warlord, these heroes with much stronger laning potential, allow you to pick them early in the draft. I would even try that out. Really try it out. It works. It's something high level teams have done for a while. If you recall OG at TI in particular, I think that was a very noticeable one. They picked Spectre and PL first phase, and they just secured them a good lane. That was a little bit different because they used very strong supports and lane mechanics to do that, but you can have the same idea, but just with a stronger laning hero, and apply that into your games and kind of give your offlaner a much better pick, or your mid laner a much better pick. So most of the time in the laning stage, what I want to say about Void is against the weaker of the heroes, once you get your Wraith bands, and especially if you get a regen advantage, you should just be hitting them every time you can when you have Time Walk up, right? You take very little damage from creeps due to your high armor, and you hit extremely hard, right? So the idea here is you want to apply endless aggression due to the fact that you have a natural ability that allows you to regen and a 0 mana trading spell in your Bash. Using these two things, and I mean you really have to crush your opponent when possible. Now if we look at this lane, it's a Doom and an Ogre. It's not that great, right? It's not as easy to pressure these heroes with right clicks as others, correct? Ogre has insane armor, Doom has insane regen. But if you're going to play Void, what I recommend is you just hit people. Learn who you can hit, because if you watch any pro replay of Void, you'll notice they do a lot of trading, and it's because this hero has really great bait potential, especially if you buy the stick that you see in this clip here. If you have a stick in Time Walk, you can randomly gain 300 HP in the burst of 1 second, and all of a sudden, you're in advantage. Now what I want to show here is, why in the world is he level 4.5 to the level 3 of the Doom? Now, there's a couple things. So the Ogre Magi is almost level 4, if we show here, right? Ogre Magi is almost level 4, and Disruptor is, only 3.5, so that's the beginning of the trade. But also, a lot of it came down to the pulling. And something that's also great about Void, and I know I'm talking, maybe about a team aspect here, but you can easily solo lane, right? So if you're playing in a party stack, which I know is very common now, right? Hopefully you guys are starting to play with, friends, and if you have friends, feels bad, man. But if you're playing with friends, you should be considering, more team aspects of the game. And this is an important one. Faceless Void naturally can push the lane by hitting the enemy, right? I'm going to really break this down, so listen closely. If you hit the enemy, you naturally will aggro the creeps, right? And when you aggro the creeps, the lane will push because his creeps, the Doom's creeps, will not be hitting the Void's creeps, meaning that the lane will push, and as a result, you're going to want to get up when the lane pushes. And in general, when you can push the lane and get a pull off, it is hard for the enemy to contest the pull, especially if there's only an offlaner or, both of them are showing in the wave. It's going to be very hard for them to even get there without the support knowing. So basically what I'm saying is, as a strategy, you can pick a hero like Faceless Void that naturally 1v1s, or can even 1v2 fairly effectively, have him solo push the lane while the position 5 pulls, and this is going to get you a level advantage, right? This Disruptor almost never has to actually help the Void in lane. He actually, takes a bit of pressure, but what could a Disruptor really do to a Doom? Not so much. Not so much is the answer. And as a result, I do think Disruptor should even put a bigger emphasis on pulling than he does in this game, because you notice the Void actually does get run down here. What I want to show here next is something that I don't typically recommend, and that is jungling early as a hero that can't jungle. Now, this is a play you have to really think about, because you'd be like, okay, this is obviously not great for efficiency, right? I'm not farming lane creeps, and for Faceless Void, lane creeps is everything. It is. It's everything, because this hero naturally doesn't jungle that quickly. But what I will say is that a common trend you'll notice in your pubs is that if you are dying a lot, and if the enemy carry is dying a lot, whoever stabilizes earlier wins. And what I mean by that is whoever chills and just farms will most likely win the game. So, I think him jungling is not even close to optimal for his farm. However, it does two things. It allows his support to, get a little bit of XP, which is, great. Disruptor's level 5 now, which is fantastic for him. And it allows him to stabilize his game. Is this optimal? No, but it is safe. So you consider it. What I'm saying is, if you're going to die endlessly in your lane, and there's no point in showing up, for instance, this Doom having Doom, that's the case here. Doom having Doom. If he dies, he's just going to snowball out of control, he's going to get flamed by his teammates, and he's probably going to hate himself. So instead, what he does is actually jungle towards mid, right? He jungles camp towards mid. And as Faceless Void, I remember watching a clip a while ago, but as Faceless Void, what Universe would do from the off lane is once he got Chrono, he would buy a TP, instantly TP mid, time walk in, and Chrono the enemy mid laner. The majority of games, right? If there's kill potential. And this is a great play for Void, because you're one of the only heroes that has, natural initiation in the early game with Chrono. So, similar to an Earth Spirit or a Spirit Breaker, you can gank mid very effectively, right? And in this case, he's roaming around, which is something you want to be careful about, because, he's not farming. But he ends up finding a nice Chrono onto the Invoker and gets the kill. Now, what I want to say about that is make sure that you are not simply walking around mid and waiting for things to happen, right? Do not sit around mid and hit no creeps for a half a minute, right? Then you are going to just strictly lose efficiency. Clear a camp, walk towards mid, check with your camera, see what's happening, be like, okay, there's a kill here, time walk in, Chrono, go back to farming. That's the pattern there. Now, upcoming here, I just want to talk about the one major mistake I think he makes, which is leveling his bash at level 3. Basically, bringing down time walk to a 6-second cooldown allows you to infinitely trade with the majority of heroes in the lane. Because if we look now, because he doesn't have time walk for another 8 seconds, he actually, can't time walk off some of this damage, right? It doesn't punish him too much in this case, but hopefully you can kind of see the point. If he was trying to play really aggro, it's the difference of being able to go in and out or not. Maxing time walk basically maxes your bash because you're going to be able to hit people more, and therefore your bash chance goes up. That's just simple math, and that's how you want to look at it. Now here what we're going to see is a play that I really like. I'm a personal fan of just really pressuring Silence's Void. Now, I don't know exactly what he's doing in the trees here, but what you want to do on Void for the most part is hit lane creeps, right? Jungling is not optimal, as I've said, and as a result, he's playing top now. And laning against the enemy carry is a great play to make because the majority of heroes, especially carries, can't man up on you. Now, might be a hero like Slark that, if you can't threaten with Chrono, or you don't have anyone to back you up, can trade 1v1, and you should be a bit careful about. But a hero like Lifestealer, who, might be underfarmed or, only be going Midas and not have good trade stats like you do, will be someone you can pressure out. And as a result, you can run to their lane and completely run them out. Now here's the problem with no time walk, just take some extra damage, and basically he has to go jungle now. So, what I'm going to say about Void is the optimal play in the majority of games is as following. Farm your lanes for as long as possible, heavy trade with your opponent, get to the enemy safe lane, and trade with the enemy safe laner, if possible, right? Because that's going to apply a lot of pressure on them, and not only that, it's going to force supports to come over, and when you drag the supports, then you get the situation where your team isn't going to die, because, a lot of carries are like, oh, my team is dying, I'm AFK farming, and my, 4 of my teammates keep feeding. What do I do in that case, Speed? Well, you have to drag them to you, you have to bring them to you. That's how you avoid your team getting ganked, right? In order to do that, you need to hit the enemy carry, hit the tower, farm aggressive waves. That's the way to circumvent those type of things. Now, the next clip we're going to see here is a TP mid. So he sees the Invoker mid, he decides that I don't really want to trade with the CK. It's not so great, considering CK, has his max passive. So he TPs mid, and I really don't like what he's doing here, right? You have to be very careful. So what he's doing is showing mid, right? That's it. Now, the Invoker, I guess wasn't paying enough attention, but he gets the chrono off anyway. You need to be very careful about just straight up showing mid, because if you don't get the gank off, it's a large waste of time TPing mid. However, he gets the kill, and therefore I think it was a very heads up TP mid, as long as he gets back to farming ASAP, which he does, right? And this is crucial. This is the key aspect of this mid gank. Gets the kill, and instantly back to the lane to farm, right? In fact, he gets another kill, which is great, but in general, you just need to get back to the lane and farm. And fight. You can still fight. Because the benefit of this Void build, with a lot of stats, right? If we look at it here, Magic Wand, Shreds and 2 Wraith Bands, as well as Max Time Walk, is going to let you trade and hit people regardless, completely regardless, of having Chrono. Now here he makes an interesting TP bottom. And after this clip, we're going to move on to more of the team fighting. But he TPs bottom and contests Ogre a bit, which I think is alright, but the only thing you have to be careful about when you're TPing like this, especially when they know you're TPing, considering, you just were top 2 seconds ago, is if they pressure you and kill you now, you're going to respawn with no TP and get put in a really weird spot. So in general, the point is that if good players see you TP, or if you even see anyone TP, actually you're probably a good player, so you already see this, but if you see them TP, you know they're going to stay in the area, right, because they can't naturally TP to the other side of the map. And that's why it's very dangerous to make that type of play if they can apply pressure with something like a Doom, right? He doesn't have it in this case, but that would be the case. Now, I quickly want to embarrass my student and show off this clip. But at the same time, I want to say that I really like this. This might seem like, oh, fell of the week, Void Mrs. Chrono, but like, the reason why I like this is it's a high aggression play that would create a lot of chaos. Basically, it would force the Ogre to panic, who might then TP. It might force the Doom to get off his farming rotation, and it might get him a kill. Not only that, right, him missing Chrono does not make them lose anything crazy. In a pub, they're not going to go, like, major take advantage of it, or smoke and, catch you off guard because they saw miss Chrono, right? It won't get punished that hard. And this is Immortal, right? So, what I'm saying is do not fear casting Chrono for solo kills in the early game, and do not fear missing them and casting it on one person, right? It does not matter. You should learn to make mistakes. If you want to get better, you should start just casting Chrono. Even if you're not confident, it's a 5-man Chrono that's going to win you some team fight when it's 50 minutes into the game. No. Reframe and start learning, can a 1-man Chrono be good? Because often, the answer is yes, which we'll see throughout this game. So upcoming here, I know you're looking at kind of a weird screen here, like what does this mean? But I want you to look at the minimap, okay? Let's look at the minimap. So we see a fight breaking out mid. So his natural response, in my opinion, should not be to show up to this fight, right? I think it's great to fight early as Void, when you can push your limit, but he has no Chrono, and is close to his Maelstrom, right? Relatively close. Getting to his Mithril Hammer, it's a fight that's already breaking out. It's very far away from him. So I don't think it's really worth it for him to show up. And so what I'd rather him do is create pressure on the opposite side of the map by instantly running top, right? I see a big gap here where the enemy team is mid right now. And as a result, if he pushes in top and the fight breaks out, regardless of how it breaks out, it's going to create a situation where they are less likely to push his mid tower, right? And he's going to get a lot more farm this way. So he's kind of relieving pressure, regardless of a good or bad fight. He's going to relieve pressure and continue getting farm, because this is not going to really help him that much, right? No Chrono, so he sort of just has to kind of play on the outside, which isn't so optimal. And you see, this is a big waste of time. You don't want to take those fights. The random mid fights that spur out and are completely out of your control, admit that they're out of your control, right? Try to identify them and get to the enemy side of the map, right? Get this lane in all the way over here. Get it in, guys. Get it in. And not only that, if he clears up this camp, let's go over there now. Let's take a little trip. If he clears this in, then he can farm the small camp. Or he can farm this one too, assuming that they're showing mid to fight. Clear this camp. Clear this camp. Clear this camp. Then he has good options, right? He has really good options. Because he can say, okay, I see them mid, and, they're still mid, so I can farm another wave top, or then I can back to my triangle, But the problem about farming the triangle is now he clears it out, which is great, but where do you go next? It can be a bit hard to know, right? Where does he go next? That's the question. And now, look, he has to wander around. So they kind of mess up some smoke gank, and I actually kind of would have liked the smoke gank. But at the same time, look at how much time he's wasting. And that's strictly because he was in a position where he wasn't farming optimally, right? He wasn't farming aggressively, so he loses out on farm. Now looking at this fight that's breaking out at the same second, he solo Chronos this Invoker that also got RP'd. And you might be like, wow, that's a huge overcommitment. What are you doing? What are you doing? No, it's fine, guys. Don't undercommit. My opinion, especially if you go this Mask of Madness build, which I think is extremely greedy, and I wouldn't even recommend it that hard. I would probably recommend more of a Maelstrom or Mjolnir Rush, or even Battle Fury. But if you're going to go this build, do not undercommit the Chrono. Just commit it. This applies to a lot of spells in Dota. Do not overthink it, okay? If there's a BKB Sven and I'm this Wyvern, or I'm, it's a Void BKB, just Winter's Curse. Don't overthink these things. Once you continue to gain comfort on your hero, maybe you can rethink them. But at a base value, what I really would recommend to you guys to improve is just cast your spells, don't undercommit. Because what's going to happen is you hesitate, your team feels the hesitation, one person gets picked off, or you get silenced, cold snapped, whatever, you don't get your chrono off, Wyvern gets in position by the time you do, Invoker gets healed, and then the fight's over. Do not undercommit, overcommit, and you're going to notice an improvement in your fights, or an improvement in what amount of mistakes you'll make, because you're simply playing based on confidence. Alright guys, I want to play a cool game to really end up this video. And I already know where everyone is on the map, but I've actually done this with a few of my friends and students, where we look at the map and we guess where everyone is, right? We guess where the enemy team is. We can start learning how to read into where the enemy team is. So, at this point, what do we see? We see Wyvern. We see a ton of heroes, really, so it's not that hard to guess. But we see a Wyvern, we see an Invoker, we see an Ogre Magi, and we see a Chaos Knight. So, we can kind of assume the general positioning of the enemy team, right now. Now, things get a little bit foggy here, right? We know Chaos Knight is top. This is a replay bug. We know Chaos Knight is top. We see the Doom here. So, I really like that he's going top, because he knows that Chaos Knight is the only hero that's top, and everyone else is towards mid, right? And not only that, the second thing I want to say, if we look at this map very clearly, you see these heroes? This will naturally create a reaction bottom, right? Them strictly being here and showing, right, this pudge showing, will force this wave to be more safe, right? Because basically people have this natural reaction to see heroes and rotate towards it, right? Chaos Knight rotating towards them. Ogre, sort of. Doom moving towards them. If you look at the Wyvern, in position to set up on them, right? This is very, very natural. Look at where Chaos Knight's going. Even though I think he could just stay top and farm, he sort of rotates towards them, right? Maybe he's a little bit afraid of going top. I don't know. But even in this case, I think the Void Team being back was a little bit anxious there, because he could have looked at the bottom, right? His bottom heroes and been like, okay, they might react, and I can be a little bit more patient top and play an extra wave, right? That might sound a bit weird, how you can kind of use your own team to predict the other team, or really try to read into those type of things, but it works. So really try those things out, right? Look at your team. And the second thing I want to say, the second half to this, is let's say we just see this Invoker top, okay? And no one else is showing, right? This is a hypothetical. I know you can see the Chaos Knight and Wyvern right now, but let's say we only see the Invoker. What you might notice if you start doing this in your games, really go into your replays, so prove it or, unprove it to me. Do your own experimentation. But what I've noticed is if you see one hero top, and it's a core, typically a core, 9 times out of 10, there'll be 3-4 heroes around them or in the general vicinity. Is this necessarily correct from the enemy team or his teammates? Not necessarily, but it is a very common trend because people like to play around their cores. Supports often play very afraid, right? They often play behind their cores, and as a result, you can assume where you can split push strictly based on one hero. It's kind of like the one hero rule. I talk about it with a couple people. Difficult to apply, can be, dangerous to apply because it can get you killed. But it is really one way to really read into the enemy team without seeing anything. It's like being a mind reader. And I'm going to end up the video there. I know we didn't go over any crazy team fights. I mean, the general gist is to, sort of chrono people. That's about it. And the last thing I want to talk about before we leave is talents. So what I recommend is at level 10, you take the 12 strength. At 15, I've definitely seen both. People are going both of the talents. So, that one you can kind of figure out for yourself. Do I need more time walks? Do I need more damage? But at level 10, the 12 strength is huge. It gives you the ability to abuse the max time walk, be extremely tanky, and run down lanes and really pressure the map. That is the benefit and how you should play Void. So if there's anything you take out of this video, it's buy stats, take the strength talent, and run down the side lanes to the best of your ability.
Tired of being sandbagged by your team? At gameleap.com, we have pro guides covering some of the best heroes in the game to solo carry your ranked games, as well as, of course, specifically covering the carry role. Hit the link on screen right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount and start your journey today.